Hey guys, I hope you're doing good today. So today's video is going to be a little bit different. So I have been subscribed to this channel on YouTube and it's called Bigfoot Case Files, okay? So it's a Canadian company. I don't know if you'd call it a company. They're based off an island in British Columbia and they get stories from all around the world. They're very interesting. I really enjoy their channel. So I wanted to read one of these stories. This one here is called Boys Says Harry Monster Came and Got Him. Can you imagine? Oh my god. It is narrated, but I'm gonna actually read it to you just because um well, I don't want sorry. I'm gonna read it to you. I think that'd be a better idea than having this woman read to you. Her name's Lauren, I believe. But you guys gotta check it out. I'll link it underneath when I'm done. But all right, let's get into this.
I'm Lynn Smith, and welcome to Bigfoot Case Files. The Green Mountain Cover-Up, 1980. The late researcher...
All right. So it's a cover up. Okay, so it says the late researcher Fred Bradshaw once related a curious story about his father as follows. In May of 1980, his father worked for, oh yeah, give me a word I can't spell, for Weyerhaeuser Company at Green Mountain, Washington, east of Vancouver. The site had security on the roads to check on the equipment and to keep people out of closed areas. His father was working the day Mount St. Helens erupted. Oh, that would have been scary. He was also at a meeting in Kelso, Washington, and as he was a supervisor when the mountain blew its side out, all hell broke loose for him. He was sent back to Green Mountain right away, but like most, he wasn't allowed to go very far because of the mudslide coming down the river. However, he did get to the town of Toutle on Highway 504 of the Interstate 5. He and his crew were placed at different spots to watch mud flow and, of course, to help people get out of the blast zone after the first big eruption. He was then sent to the area of Spirit Lake to keep people out. That is my son in the background. Sorry. When the second major blow-up of the mountain came, he and another worker reported in and were told to get out of there. He was then placed in charge of the helicopter landing zone. It was his job to keep people out of the landing zone and let aid crews in so they could care for the injured. Later, when all the people and the bodies were taken out, the National Guard was brought in to clean up. They hauled dead animals out that they had placed in piles, deer in one, elk in another, and so on. The carcasses were covered up with tarps and later doused with napalm and burned. Napalm even burns the bones. Wow, I didn't know that. His father was placed in charge of one pile of dead animals in particular. That is so sad. The pile was covered and no one was allowed to come near it. Armed U.S. National Guard personnel were guarding the pile. On the day that they were to move this group of bodies, his father was standing very close to a pile and was told to keep his mouth closed about what he was to witness. When the tarps were removed, he was amazed to see that the bodies were those of Sasquatch, some badly burned and some not. They were placed in a large net and lifted into the back of a truck, which was then tarped over. His father asked a guardsman what would happen to the bodies, and the guardsman replied, "They'll study them or whatever. I don't want to know. It's like other stuff, you don't ask." Later that day, his father and the rest were debriefed, told not to talk about what they had witnessed there that day, and sent home. Harry Oakes is a tracking... Oh, okay, that was that for that story. Here's another one. Harry Oakes is a tracking dog handler. He represents Mountain Wilderness Search Dogs, a search and rescue unit responsible for locating a multitude of lost people in the Pacific Northwest and around the world. His tracking dog, Ranger, had so far been responsible for finding 88 people. On a Friday in July of 1989, Harry and Ranger got a call for help. A 3-year-old boy, Joseph Edwin Leffler, had disappeared from his home on Squaw Creek Road near Delph Creek, southeast of Escada, Oregon, in Clackamas County. He told his mother he was going fishing, playing fishing, at a shallow creek only 200 feet from the house. He was 3? I would never allow that. Are you kidding me? 3 years old? Is the mother nuts? Anyways, the boy was lightly dressed, wore sneakers, and had his 3 dogs with him. 2 adult male dogs, both had dingo and part Australian shepherd, named Dan and Jack, and a small white puppy. Harry and his search group showed up to search for the boy about 6... Did I miss something? Oh. Harry and his and his search group showed up to search for the boy about 6 p.m. on Saturday. Harry and Ranger found tracks of the boy and his dogs a mile west of the boy's home. Heading downstream through marshy ground on nearby Duff Creek, Harry and his group thought somebody was playing a joke as there was a series of barefoot, four-toed footprints where the boy's tracks suddenly disappeared. They could see where something described as huge had been walking through the brush. Harry measured one track where there was a good imprint, not sliding, at 27 inches and 10 inches with a 5-foot stride. A 24-inch print has been attributed to a 12-foot tall Bigfoot. I'd shit. The track was half-inch deep and pretty solid ground, and Harry said he stomped on the ground with his heavy boots, and he couldn't make a dent. Ranger sniffed. He ignored the Bigfoot tracks, hunting for the boy's scent, which had mysteriously disappeared near a roadway.
Our sons and daughters don't have a place to go where they can develop their Islamic identity.
39th Air.
So the 39th Air Force Reserve Aerospace Rescue and Recovery Group had 2 helicopters with high-tech search equipment on board, including infrared video cameras taping their progress while crisscrossing the area in a search grid. A report came in. One of the pilots flying up above stated that their flyer system, forward-looking infrared, a thermal imager camera, had picked up a huge object on the ground, something they've never seen before. They requested Harry and go check it out. One questioning the FLIR operator later said, "The thing was huge, upright and walking. It's physically impossible to be that huge on the system." He told the flight engineer to check it out. That's when they called Harry. Looking around that area, Harry and his partner found more tracks. They were of the same huge size, and they had seen near the creek earlier. They also looked around for hair on the branches or scratches, such as a bear might have left, but never found anything. They did notice broken branches up pretty high, 7 to 8 feet up. Just before noon on Sunday, in a wooded area near the search base camp, little Joey Leffler walked up to Judy McGill, one of the Mountain Wilderness Search Team members. He stretched out his arms and I picked him up. He said his first comment was that he was hungry. What? No question later, Joey said a big hairy monster came and got him and the dogs and kept them safe. He had fed him berries and showed him where the creek was and how to get drink. They slept in a mining cave. He said when the helicopter came, the monster got scared and left. Beyond that, they were not able to question the boy as he was immediately helicoptered off to University Hospital in Portland, where he was checked and released about 7:30 p.m. The hospital said he was hungry, that his feet were wet and cold. There were no signs of hypothermia. The boy's rescue and statement about the big hairy monster was taped on location by Channel 2 News. However, when the tape was aired, they explained that the young boy told the story the only way he knew how, suggesting that it was only a tall tale. Other than what Channel 2 News reported, nothing was reported or mentioned in any other media source about the hairy monster. Harry interviewed one of the forest rangers about the possible Bigfoot association and Joey. The ranger said there are lots of mining caves up there, and lots of sightings had been reported, and that the Forest Service people were of the opinion that the thing had the IQ of a dog. Not overly intelligent, but not stupid either. He also said it was not threatened by other animals. It was later guessed that the Bigfoot had found the lost boy, picked him up, and carried him away. We don't understand why the boy's dogs didn't object. The guess was that the dogs, dingo Australian shepherds, being Australian in origin, didn't have the fear, hatred, kill instinct of other African dog types. The barkless dingoes, maybe Bigfoot don't mind quiet dogs, have been closely associated with the very primitive aboriginals. Some say there's fibers of prehistoric times, and if the Bigfoot critter is a relict human type, they might even be ancient allies. Here's another story. So this one is back in 1998, along Black Snake Ridge in the foothills of the Blue Mountains. I had an encounter with a Bigfoot and got a good long look at him. Because of all the ridicule I've faced for leaking the story to people over the years, I'd rather not share my name, so just call me Jack the Logger, as I work in the logging industry. I was convinced to finally tell my story by 2 researchers. They told me the story needed telling, and I agreed. Oops. It happened on a cold day in late November of 1998. I make 2 or 3 trips per day, when I'm hauling logs, and this counts a lot of days when I have to put on chains at the top and take them off when I get out of the snow. And I could probably give a pretty good count of deer and elk in those parts as well. These days, ever since that late November day, I've been eyeing the landscape for Bigfoots. On my trip that afternoon off the mountain, I was headed toward the town of Dixie, a small town of a couple hundred people on US Highway 12. This day was the highlight for me of some 45 years of trucking logs. I first spotted the creature when it was on an open slope, some 3/4 of a mile away, but I didn't realize what the thing was. I estimated about where on the road I would likely cross its path. All that time, I'm wondering what kind of an animal it was. I never entered my mind that it was going to be a Bigfoot. As my rig came into the curb at the end of a long grade in the road, there was only about 40 to 45 yards separating it from me. And as I got there and saw him, I stopped my truck and shut off the motor. He was standing there in a heavy, tufted, grassy area, just standing and looking at me, with both eyeballed each other real good. I was close enough I could see his facial expressions. He didn't look like an ape in the face, more like man features, but hairy in the face. I would say he had a nose, but not much. The skin was black, and his hair color was like a smoky gray, and had gray hair showing like an old dog will get around his nose. Anyway, while he was standing there, the expression on his face changed 3 or 4 times. That led me to believe that the man may not be the only animal that had reasoning. That old boy was thinking, and every time he'd go to a different train of thought, his expression would change. I was looking at the width of the shoulders and his height, wondering what the hell was going to happen. He was a good yard or more through the shoulders, and I've had people tell how a Bigfoot is about 8 feet tall. Well, this dude was taller than 8 feet and closer to 9 feet tall. When you're that close, it's no problem to figure out how big it was. And he never made any effort to run for me. He never acted like he was scared. I sure know he wasn't scared of me, not a bit. Then he turned and walked along with a limp, like something was wrong with one leg, like he had an old injury or something, or someone had shot him. He then stopped and turned and looked at me for another full minute before he left. He didn't run. He just walked over to the edge of the brush that dropped off steeply into the dry creek Norfolk. There was no getting around it. There was not any man-made object or a man dressed up. There isn't a man in this county big enough to wear that suit. There was my first Bigfoot encounter, although several years ago I saw something that I thought was a bear standing up, always thought it was a Bigfoot, but couldn't find no sign. But this time, it's different. Absolutely no doubt about it. I didn't know whether to say anything to anyone about this, If I'd go downtown and tell the guys I saw a Bigfoot, they'd laugh me clear out of the place. I told my wife about it, and she kind of had her doubts about it for a while, but she knew I wasn't going to come in with some kind of cock and bull story to take a ridiculing over. But I don't really care what people think about it, except with someone who had seen Bigfoot or is a serious believer. This was the closest to a real human than anything I've ever seen on a television or real life. His body is proportioned more to a human than anything I've ever seen. This dude walked like a man and somehow acted like a man. He walked like he was crippled in the right leg or foot. I'll tell you this much, too. I've never seen anything like it before or since. He's a one of a kind for me. And that would be it for that. Wasn't that neat? So as you've seen, I ended up getting a notification from the Bigfoot Files. But that's what this channel is called, is Bigfoot Files. There's so many different stories. They actually have a phone number on the beginning of the screen too, so that you can call in with your stories. I think it's fascinating. I've always been fascinated by Bigfoot stories. Would I want to see one? No. Do I want to be anywhere near one? No. I've seen and read way too many articles that it scares the crap out of me. Much like UFOs and aliens. Yeah, I believe in it enough to know, stay the hell away from it. You know what I mean? All right, well, that'll be it for this video today. Let me know if you guys enjoyed this, and I'll look around for more. I think they're interesting. But let me know what you guys think, and I don't know, maybe possibly we'll do like a paranormal Thursday or something every week. I don't know. I think it'd be cool. You let me know what you think. Bye, guys.